Okay, so now it's Wednesday ELA time. I'm so thankful you're joining me because this is a good one. Oh, that's math. This is a good one to do on together and talk about, because if we were in class, we would read this together. We would talk about it, talk about it, talk about it. You know, I love to talk. And then we would move on to answering the questions together. So I model some writing strategies here. I model some checking your work here. It's important to maybe watch this one through because it is kind of a lesson. Doing this on your own is also great. If you can't watch this whole video, I understand. But I do recommend that you watch the video if you want to get the lesson that goes with it. All right? So without any further ado, let's start our ELA together. All right, grade 2 and grade 3, let's get started with today's ELA. So today is a little different. Now, I know not everyone is going to be able to print this out. That is why I'm making the video. You can read along with me and just listen. That's okay. Okay, so read along with me and listen because this is a lesson in reading comprehension. Now, say you saw this and you're like, there's some words in here I don't know. I need my mom or my dad or my brother or my sister to read it to me. Then you can think, oh, I remember Mrs. Oakes will do this with me because she's here to teach me some ELA. So this is called the Messiest room in town. We're going to read it through, and then it's quite long. It's 2 pages long. And then we're going to answer some questions, and then we're good. Okay? So let's do it. The messiest room in town. Everyone said Herbert's bedroom was the messiest room in town. Everything was covered with toys and clothes, clean and dirty. Pet hair, rotten apple cores, moldy pizza scraps were on the floor and under the bed. What a mess. Herbert didn't care. He liked his room just the way it was. Let's give a zoom in so you can see the writing, just in case you're following along without a sheet, and that is okay. Herbert's mother said, "How can you find anything? I'll bet you even have dust bunnies under your bed." His sister said, "Not dust bunnies, dust monsters. And how do you stand the smell?" Herbert just grinned and closed the door. Why do they care about my room, he thought. If I put things away, I won't be able to find anything. Besides, it doesn't smell that bad in here. One night, as Herbert was reading in bed, he heard a rumble. Then his bed began to move. He looked up and saw something coming out from under his bed. What's going to happen? Out popped 2 big brown eyes, and then came out a big brown nose with a clothespin stuck on the end. A dirty brown head poked out and frowned at Herbert. "Herbert," the dust monster said, "this has got to stop. This room has passed messy. It has become a disaster area." Herbert's only question was, "Why do you have a clothespin on your nose?" Now, if a dust monster came out from under my bed, I would have more than the clothespin on my nose. Dust bunnies and dust monsters are probably pretty cute, though, because they're just little dust bunnies. I'm guessing there's some somewhere in everyone's house because I hope so, because I always find them in my house. Dust monster answered, "Because I can't stand the smell of dirty socks and rotten food. It's time to clean up this mess." The monster lurched over to the window and threw it open. Fresh air at last, sighed the dust monster. "Herbert, clean this room up right now. If you don't, I'm going to do something really terrible," shouted the monster. It began to grow bigger and bigger, because dust bunnies, and dust monsters, dust bunnies are just big balls of dust that kind of collect. So you don't want them to get too big, otherwise they're not a bunny anymore. Bunnies are cute. Dust monster doesn't sound as cute. Herbert jumped out of his bed and began to hang clothes in his closet. He shoved his dirty clothes in a box by the door. He put his toys and books on shelves. As Herbert was working, Dust Monster got smaller and smaller. By the time Herbert was done, the monster was gone. "Wow, I'll never let things get that messy again," said Herbert, and he went to bed. The next morning, everyone was shocked to see how neat and clean his room was. They wanted to know what had happened. Herbert just grinned as he put a "Keep Out" sign on his door. Okay, so we're going to work through some questions. First, I'm just going to talk about what that was really about. So this is obviously, what do you think? Is this a true story or a fictional story? So that's Herbert's room. I have a feeling I actually know this is a fictional story because there's no such thing as dust monsters, but it's kind of a way for the author to give a message about the importance of a clean room without just saying, clean your room. So this is the author imagining a way that a kid who has a really messy room could be motivated to clean it up. Okay, and maybe, I think we've all had a messy room at some point in our life. It happens. Things get messy. But it's important to stay on top of it. I don't think Herbert's room seems like a very nice place to be at the beginning of the story. So let's go through and answer the questions. So we know that it's a fictional story. It's not real. And we know that because it's got a dust monster in it. And there's no such thing as a dust monster. Dust bunnies are a figure of speech. So you might find them kind of in the corners or under your couch. They're tiny little balls, like little tiny balls of dust or hair, or just kind of like a collection of things that need to be cleaned up. And I'm pretty sure that they're just part of life. I've seen them at school before. We get dust bunnies at school sometimes in corners we don't use. They're just little cute balls of fluff, right? Usually they're kind of a gray or brown color. Now, Herbert's room has gone beyond a little messy, and now it's so messy that the dust bunnies have grown into dust monsters. Okay, again, this is make-believe. It's taking something that's real in real life and turning it into like a make-believe thing to write a story about, which is pretty cool. So what made people think Herbert has the messiest room in town? We're going to answer these questions by going back to the text and finding the important parts. So what made people think Herbert had the messiest room in town? So the answer we need is always in the text. It's always in the work that we're doing. So let's read. And then we'll find our answer. We're looking for why people thought he had the messiest room in town. Everyone said Herbert's bedroom was the messiest room in town. Everything was covered with toys. Oh, this is part of our answer. Everything's covered with toys, clean and clothes, and clean and dirty. Pet hair, rotten apple cores, and moldy pizza scraps were on the floor and under the bed. What a mess. Herbert didn't care. He liked his room just the way it was. So everyone says that his room is the messiest room in town because it's covered with toys, clothes, pet hair, rotten apple cores, and moldy pizza scraps. So let's write that in our own words. So, because... Now, I would usually say answer in a full sentence, but for this, I'm not going to make you. There's not enough room for most of you to write a full sentence, so you can start with just because. He had clothes, comma, toys, comma, pet hair, and then I'm going to say, and rotting food. In his house, or in his room. All over his room? That sounds better. All over his room. And if I was going to make this as a full sentence, I'm just going to show you how you would do that. I would write, people thought Herbert had the messiest room in town. Because he had clothes, toys, pet hair, and rotting food all over. Oh, and if I was going to make it a full sentence, I wouldn't have to repeat room. I could say all over the floor. So, the floor. Because we don't want to repeat ourselves in a sentence, because that's not how we talk. When you're writing, you want to kind of think of how you'd say it in words. And most of us have a better ability to communicate through talking. So when you talk out your writing first to make sure it makes sense, that's how your writing will become easier. So People thought Herbert had the messiest room in town because he had clothes, toys, pet hair, and rotting food all over the floor. Ew! Why did Herbert's room smell bad? Now, I don't know if it comes right out and says it, but we could totally figure that out by reading. The beginning of the story. Sorry, I print things double-sided to save paper. So there's some math on there too. So we scan, and I don't really see anything specifically saying it smells because, but this is called inferring. We can read between the lines. We can infer meaning about we know his room smells, and we can use clues from the passage and read them and figure out why it smells. So everything was covered with toys and clothes, clean and dirty. That wouldn't make it smell. Pet hair, rotten apple cores, and molding pizza scraps on the floor and under the bed. That would make it smell. So pet hair can be smelly. Rotten apple cores and moldy pizza scraps can be smelly. So we're going to make this we're going to shorten this down and put it in our own words. We're going to say, his room was smelly because it was covered in pet hair and rotting food. Rotten apple cores and moldy pizza scraps. Moldy pizza scraps is rotting pizza. Rotten apple cores is rotting apples. So let's say pet hair and rotting food. Okay? So we go here. And this one I am going to make a full sentence because I've shortened what I have to say, okay? So Herbert's room smells bad. I'm just going to say his room smells bad. His room smells bad because it is full of. Actually, dirty clothes might also smell too. It is full, we could add that. It is full of dirty clothes, comma, pet hair, and then we only have one more thing to say, so we say and. So it's full of dirty clothes, pet hair, and rotting food. You could be specific and say pizza and apples, but we could also just shorten that to be succinct. That means like saying only what you need to say. It's a skill I'm still learning because I often say too much. Pet hair and rotting food. All right, number 3, why did the dust monster come out from Herbert's bed? So this is also an inference that we can use clues. It might not say, I came out from under the bed because, but if we read, we could probably figure it out. So we have to we scan into the point where the dust monster, so they talk about dust monsters. His sister made a joke about a dust monster, not dust bunnies, dust monsters. And then we scan, okay, Herbert was reading in bed, he heard a rumble, his bed began to move, he looked up and saw something coming out from under the bed. So we know we're about to get to the point where we need to be reading. Out popped 2 big brown eyes. So this is the part that's going to tell us what we need to know. Then out came a big brown nose with a clothespin stuck on the end. A dirty brown head poked out and frowned at Herbert. Herbert. Actually, I'm going to read it like this. Herbert, said the dust monster. This has got to stop. This room has passed messy. It has become a disaster area. Because he has a clothespin on his nose, so it would be hard to understand him. Herbert's only question was, why do you have a clothespin on your nose? The dust monster answered, because I can't stand the smell of dirty socks and rotten food. It's time to clean up this mess. The monster lurched over to a window and threw it open. Fresh air at last, sighed the dust monster. Okay, so the dust monster then says, Herbert, clean this room up right now. If you don't, I'm going to do something really terrible, shouted the monster. It began to grow bigger and bigger. So the dust monster didn't say, I came out from under your bed to tell you, but what the dust monster is saying to us, or saying to Herbert, is the room is so stinky and so dirty that he can't handle it anymore. So he came out to ask Herbert to clean up the room. Okay, the dust monster came out to ask Herbert to clean up the room. The dust monster came out from the bed, from under the bed. Sorry, this is an R. To ask Herbert to clean up the mess. All right, why did the dust monster have a clothespin on its nose? Oh, you could also add because it was unbearable. That's optional, but you could add some kind of because to tell why. It was unbearable. He couldn't stand it. He couldn't bear to be there. I think I spelled that right. Unbearable. I will check later, and hopefully I remember to add that edit in if it's incorrect. What do we do if we're not sure about a spelling? We underline it, so we remember to check it. All right. Why did the dust monster have a clothespin on his nose? Well, we don't even have to check the text. We know that because we've read it. Herbert asked straight up, why do you have a clothespin on your nose? Because I can't stand the smell of dirty socks and rotten food. Again. Why did the dust monster have a... Oh, that's another clue as to why the room smells bad. They actually do tell us straight up. I just missed that part. Why did the dust monster have a clothespin on his nose? He had a clothespin on his nose. A clothespin on his nose. Because he could not stand the smell. I'm going to say the terrible smell. You could also say he couldn't stand the smell of dirty socks and rotten food, whatever you decide to write. Now, what do you think the dust monster would have done if Herbert didn't clean his room? So he started to do it. He says, I'm going to do something. If you don't clean up this room, I'm going to begin to do something really terrible. It began to grow bigger and bigger. So make a prediction. What do you think would happen if he didn't clean up his room? Well, the dust monster would grow bigger and bigger. Maybe it might take over his whole room. The dust monster might grow bigger, and we're making a prediction, so we use might grow bigger because this didn't happen in the story, but we could predict because we're smart. The dust monster might grow bigger and take over the room. All right, how did the bedroom get so messy? How did the bedroom get so messy? Well, the bedroom is pretty messy because Herbert didn't take care of it. So the bedroom is messy because Herbert doesn't pick up his mess. He doesn't. And that's called cleaning up after yourself. So I'm going to use that, and that's a mom/dad/teacher thing that you might hear people say. You need to clean up after yourself. Okay, we say that to our kids all the time. Herbert doesn't clean up, and all that means is if you make a mess, you don't leave it there. So if you've ever heard someone say, you need to clean up after yourself, it means you need to clean up after you're done what you're doing. You need to put your stuff away. Otherwise, you're not cleaning up after yourself, and your room will end up like Herbert's room. Think about it. Now, this is a part that you're going to do on your own. And be honest with yourself. Think about it. Circle the word that tells about your bedroom. Is it the messiest room of town, a little messy, or neat and clean? Now mine is neat and clean because I have a thing about a clean room. I can't sleep in a messy room. I like my bedroom to be neat and clean. Maybe yours is a little messy. That's okay. I have definitely had the messiest room in town at some point when I was younger. Everyone has a messy, really messy room at some point in their life, guys. It happens. But over time, I have learned, I didn't learn because of a dust monster, but I've learned because I like things to be neat and clean, and that's just how I like them. Maybe it's a little messy. Circle what it is, and then tell me about it, or write a sentence about how do you clean your room. So I'm gonna tell how I clean my room. So every day, I make my bed. You know what, I'm gonna start this with, I clean my room every day. Sorry, that R is flying up. I'm writing at a weird angle because of the camera. I clean my room every day by putting laundry away. Putting my laundry away. Wherever it needs to go, comma, vacuuming. I vacuum every day because I love the feeling of freshly vacuumed carpet. Now this is another word that I'm gonna have to check because I know vacuum is a tricky word, so I'm gonna underline it. Vacuuming up, vacuuming the carpet. Let's just leave it at that. Comma, making my bed. And cleaning up clutter. So clutter is, say I'm reading a book, or I'm writing in my journal, or, you know, my kids were in there and they've left a stuffed animal or something. Every day I make sure at least once a day that I'm putting all the clutter away. Otherwise, the clutter gets out of hand. Maybe my car keys are sitting, maybe I put my car keys on my dresser, and my car keys don't belong there. They belong in my car key spot. So I put away the clutter. I put everything where it belongs. So you're going to tell me how you clean your room. I clean my room, and maybe it's not every day. That's okay. Not everyone needs to clean their room every day. But I like to, so I put every day. So I clean my room every day by putting my laundry away, vacuuming the carpet, comma, making my bed, and cleaning up clutter. I had 2 commas here because I've separated out the parts that I'm doing. Now, I have 2 words that I'm going to check really quickly, just to make sure. Now, you might think, but you're a teacher, shouldn't you know how to spell everything? Well, I know how to spell a lot of things, but sometimes if I'm not sure about a word, I look it up, and I know I do the same thing in class. So it's not something new that you guys are seeing me do here, but... Oh, see, I opened up my computer and all my notifications came through. I'm just gonna quickly search these words, and then I will edit them and make sure that they're correct. All right, so I looked up the words. Now, unbearable is correct. Unbearable, that is correct. And I checked vacuuming, and I actually made a mistake. So this is why you always check. If you're unsure, just underline it and come back to it at the end. You don't want to have to always disrupt your writing, guys. Don't disrupt your writing and stop and looking it up, because when you're writing, you're in a flow, right? You're just writing it out. You can always go back and change what you're writing, but if you're stopping and looking up a word or saying, how do I spell this word? It actually makes it harder to write. So underline it, and what I learned is it only has 1 C. So it's V-A-C-U-U, that's the part that confused me, M-I-N-G. So again, don't stop your work to ask how something is spelled. Don't get hung up on the spelling of something, because if I had have stopped, I probably would have lost my momentum. Write. You see how I messed up my R? Did that stop my writing? No, I just kept writing, and then you can go and scribble it out later. Then you read over to make sure it makes sense. I clean my room every day by putting my laundry away, vacuuming the carpet, making my bed, and cleaning up clutter. Done. Awesome job. I know this was a bit of a longer ELA video, so thank you for sticking with it. There you have it. You have done your ELA on this wonderful Wednesday. Don't forget, you can send me a picture of your work so I can see how you're doing. I'd love to see your sentence. Now, if you had to split this up between 2 days, that's okay. The activity on Friday is a very short one. If you're following my suggested schedule, it is quick. It's just a little quick predicting activity. In addition to this, you also have spelling, but you don't feel like you need to do it all in one day. You have 5 English days in total in between spelling tests. So I'm trying to keep it 5 days in total in between spelling tests. So know that you don't have to do spelling every day if it's causing you stress. You are able to decide with your family what kind of a schedule you're going to have. I totally understand, guys. Everyone is working in a different place. Literally, everyone is working in a different place. Usually I say that like, we're all working in a different place. We all have different brains. Today I mean we are all literally sitting in different places doing this work, but we're still doing it, and I really appreciate you showing up. So that's the end of my chit chat. I hope you have a beautiful Wednesday, and I will see you back on Friday for another ELA video.